Hey, Bruiser, you mentioned the last Zoom press conference that you had recruited Lance Ware a little bit at Indiana. What were your impressions of him then, and how has he grown now that you've seen him in person, now that he's on campus?
One, I think he's gotten a lot better. Actually, a little bit taller, actually, also, too. So, but I remember going to watch him as a junior, and in the game, he shot all 3-point shots. So I was like, oh, this kid's losing his mind. But one of the things that you learn from recruiting him is he's an unbelievable rebounder, what I call a tracker. He can go get balls. The balls don't come near him. He can go get balls out of his area. And I think he's taken to that. And I think because of that, he's becoming a much better player. Plus, he told me he thinks he's grown at least an inch since his senior year of high school. So he's gotten a little bit taller. So I think he's gotten a lot better. I will have to say I think he's a lot better than I thought after seeing him in high school a couple times when I was at Indiana.
Yeah, he seemed to get a lot better that senior year of high school. How usual is that, or unusual, I guess, in the recruiting process for a guy to take that kind of leap from one year to another?
I've known as Rick Brunson. I recruited him when he was in high school. He went to Temple, played in the pros for a long time. So I've known him for a very long time. He became his high school coach. So I had a lot of conversations with him about Lance. And his thing was, you know what, I'm going to get his game together. And I got to give Rick a little credit. He put the kid where he needed to be, which is, go rebound the ball, play around the basket a little bit, and helped him work on his skills. And I think it's paid off for him. And Rick and I, we tease each other a lot because he didn't go to UMass. He ended up going to Temple. But I said, once in your life, maybe you did something for us because you should have came and played for us. You might have won some championships when you were at Temple, at UMass. But he did a great job with Lance and making him understand what his game needs to be about. And I think Rick did a good job with that.
All right, next up, we'll go with Larry Vaught.
Bruiser, Dante Allen's a guy you hadn't been around until you got to Kentucky. Just kind of wonder what your impressions are of him and how you could see him helping this team.
Really can shoot. Can get it off quick. Playing against a lot of talented players, but the one thing he adds to you, he can shoot that ball, and he gets it off quick. And what Cal has really been complimenting about is he's doing a good job of actually getting himself open and running to get balls to be able to shoot it. So you never have enough shooters, and that's the one thing he can do. And one thing I do like about his shooting is he gets it off pretty quick. So that could be something that could really help us with.
What about maybe the rest of his game? Is he going to be adequate in other parts of his game?
Well, if they're not adequate, then he won't be playing. But I think everybody on the team has worked really hard. I think the guys here, I know he's coming off a knee injury, if I'm not mistaken. But the guys have said they think that he's really improved from last year. So if he keeps improving, then he'll have a chance to get out on the floor.
All right, next up, we'll go Jerry Tipton with the Lexington Herald-Leader.
Okay, I think I'm unmuted. Bruiser, how about Terence Clark? What sort of an impression has he made on the coaches so far?
Very talented. Extremely, extremely talented. Versatility, I think that's going to be one of his biggest things. I think you can almost put him on any position on the floor to be able to play. Now, I'm not going to lie, Cal's been all over him about some of his habits, but he's unbelievably talented. Great size, puts it on the floor, shoots it. But he's a typical high school kid who's pretty much had his way. But you see it, ooze with talent. Oodles of talent. So, as talent, I'm not sure. Cal, when I used to talk to him even before this, you should talk to him in the same way you should talk to me about the John Walls and the Anthony Davises and things like that. So he has that type of talents, but he's still got a lot to learn. But he's a really, really talented player.
What can you elaborate a little bit on the habits, as you say that?
Typical kid in high school, dominated. Sometimes we'll look after the little things. Got to take care of the small things. And anybody who's been around Cal knows he sort of takes care of those types of things for you. So he makes sure you look after those types of things. That's why those guys become good players.
All right, Maggie Davis with WLEX, you got next.
Hi, Coach. The players last week talked a lot about the shot blocking that's been going on in practice, and then Coach Cal mentioned it in the video he put out last night as well. What have you seen from the defense so far? And do you like putting that level of expectations out there right now?
I don't, but this is my first time being at Kentucky, so I don't know how it's really going in the past, but the shot blocking is good. It's tough around the rim. Isaiah Jackson and Sarr and Lance. I mean, it's not easy sledding around the basket. I know Cal is big on shot blocking. I know he, you know, when you have a rim protector, he takes away a lot of mistakes. And I think we got a few of them. So I can see why everybody's excited about our rim protection this year, and the guys will be able to be out there to rim protect. So, but like I said, they erase a lot of mistakes, and you see it in practice. If you go in there, no matter who it is, guys can go get the ball.
All right, next up we'll go with John Wong. Go ahead, John.
Hey, Bruiser, I know with the COVID-19 protocols in place, it's hard to compare program to program, but in the short time that you've been here at Kentucky, what are some of the things that stand out about the program itself as compared to some of the other places that you've been?
Well, one, I've never been on I won't say I've never been. And only time I've ever been in a situation like this is when I went from UMass to Drexel, where I've never coached anybody that played the year before. So, I mean, pretty much you got a brand new team. That's the one thing that sort of shocks me a little bit. You know, you really have one player that you're returning. I've never had that in my career, no matter where I've been. And, you know, now you got to coach these guys. Usually when you have some guys returning, you have a couple guys who help the young guys out, calm them down when they start getting a little silly, things like that. So I think that for me, that's been the biggest adjustment. Like, man, pretty much everybody out here is absolutely brand new to the program and to college basketball itself. So to me, I think that's probably been the biggest thing. And I talk to Cal about that all the time. I said, I don't know how you do it. You know what I mean? When you're dealing with young kids, they get silly, they giggle, you know what I mean? All those things like that. And you're dealing with that all the time, and you got to put them together. I don't care how talented they are, they're still kids, and they act like it sometimes. So you know, you got to deal with that. But I think that's probably the biggest thing right there, is in how youthful the players are out there.
As he does every year, Cal usually tweets out how excited he is about coaching these guys. Are you surprised at how hands-on he is in some of the practices?
No, I think you have to be that way. You have a young team. When you have young players, you got to be hands-on. That's how you break them of the habits that he always talks about. If you're not, then they're going to continue to do the things that they've been doing in the past, which aren't always good. So I think you have to be hands-on. I will say this, though. I've asked those guys, you know, they've had young teams in the past. So I've asked those guys, how does this team stack up against the teams in the past? And they said this team has done an unbelievable job of picking things up. This has been one of their better groups in terms of that, some of the young groups. So I will say that. But I think you have to be hands-on as a head coach if you got a young team. If you're not, then they're going to continue the habits that could hurt you in the upcoming season.
Guys, just a reminder, if you've got questions, you can use the raise hands feature. It looks like Jerry's got one, so we'll start circle back around to the second wave. Go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, Bruiser, we kind of think of you as replacing Kenny Payne, and he was associated with working with the bigs. Is that a primary focus for you also?
I mean, I work with the bigs. I think, you know, one thing as a coach, I think you should be able to work with everybody. If not, then you're going to be limited in terms of your coaching. So, I mean, I work with the bigs. I work with the guards. I mean, I try to work wherever I need to go. I think that's what coaching is all about. I think we do a good job with our big guys. You know, some of the things that they've done in the past, they continue to do it. I've sat down with Tony a lot, and we talked about some of the stuff with the bigs. But, I mean, you know, it is what it is. I don't look at myself being a big guy. I was a head coach for 20 years. You got to run the whole thing. So I don't look at myself as seeing a big guy coach or a guard coach. I think that limits you.
And I wonder one of the bigs, obviously Olivier Sarr, what impression has he made? How key is he to you guys doing what you want to do?
One thing I know about Cal is he loves post presence. Like, he's not a guy that likes to shoot threes all the time. I think Olivier gives you post presence. He gives you a chance to score the ball around the basket. He's very highly skilled. So he's just not a back to the basket player. He can play out on the floor. He can shoot threes. So offensively, I think he gives you a big guy that can give you some versatility, whether it's around the basket or away from the basket. So I think he's very talented in that way. So I think he's gonna be a big deal. And like I said, I know for a fact Cal likes to post the ball. As much as you shoot a ton of 3-point shots in college basketball nowadays. Cal believes if you don't have post presence, you're a little bit of a fraud. So we need that, and I think Olivier is going to give us that.
All right, Larry Vaught, we'll come back to you.
Yeah, could you just talk a little bit about B.J. Boston and what your impressions have been of him so far, Bruiser?
Unbelievable finisher. Now, he really started because of his finger, so he hasn't been in as many practices. But one of the things I've seen is an unbelievable finisher around the basket, can really score the ball. So I've been really impressed with that. It's been a little limited because he still has the finger injury going on a little bit, so he's not in every single thing. But last couple of days he's been in it, and the one thing you see about him is how he finishes the ball, finishes in scoring.
And then the same maybe with Devin asked you, what have you thought of him?
I will say this, in my short period of time, he's one of the hardest working kids I've ever been around. And I've been doing this for a minute, and kid goes hard on every rep. And he gets in there, he puts his time into the gym. And I've been around some guys that do it, and this kid, he's up there. So, I mean, his energy is unbelievable. He's one of those kids that I always say once in a while, you guys say, hey, man, have a seat, sit down and rest yourself. Don't run yourself into the ground. But unbelievable work ethic, unbelievable work ethic.
All right, John Wong, we'll come back to you.
Yeah, Bruiser, you mentioned about shooting. Kentucky fans are worried about a lot of things. Shooting is one of them. They're like you, never have enough shooters. How do you see this team shaping up as a team of shooters, and can they put the ball in the basket?
Well, I mean, from why the Davion Mintz, I think, shoots the ball pretty well. BJ, I think Terence is a good shooter. Devin's a good, he'll be a solid shooter. So I think we'll be able to put guys out there that you got to play. But you never know till game time. Guys can shoot the hell out of it in practice. They get in the game, they can't make anything. So when I was at Indiana, we used to chart everything. So we used to have all these numbers, and then their charts didn't always add up to their game stats. So their percentages didn't always add up. But from just watching, and the Davion Mintz, I think, can really shoot the ball. And BJ. So that, I think they're right there, get you two. I've already talked about Dante, and one of the things I think he brings to the team is shooting. So there's three guys, and I think Terence and Devin will be good shooters. I mean, I think that you won't be leaving them open by themselves. Who's the best shooter you've ever seen? Other than myself, the best shooter I ever saw. I didn't really coach him, but just watching him, he used to come and work out all the time. It was James Backman Jr. I mean, really, really shot the ball. When as a head coach, the best shooter that I ever had was this kid named Monty Mack from UMass. He's the second all-time leading scorer in the history of UMass. Flat out just shot it. And not only that, got it off, like I always talk about, got it off quick. You know what I mean? Like, not just a guy who sat there and just shot the ball when he was open. Come off screens, those types of things, one dribble pull-ups. Like, Monty could really shoot the ball. So he's probably the best player that I ever coached that could really shoot it.
Guys, got about 5 more minutes left in Brew. If you got questions, Jerry, I'll come back to you.
Yes, Bruiser, I wonder about Cameron Fletcher. What sort of an impression has he made? How do you see him fitting in?
Great energy. Kid has great energy out there. Now, you got to harness it a little bit before he kills somebody in practice, but kid has great energy out there. So he's going to bring it. That's the one thing you're going to appreciate by him when you see him play. But, just like most freshmen, got a lot to learn, but his effort is always there. So we just got to harness it, have him get to the point where, he's real comfortable with what we're doing. He's not ahead of himself, as you say, in coaching. He's not out there going crazy, but he's going to bring great energy and has some versatility too. So I think that's one of the things you're going to appreciate about his game.
And I also wanted to ask you about, there's no exhibition games this year, no inter-squad scrimmage. How do those elements help the formulation of a team, or, how much more of an unknown then will it be in that opening game of what exactly?
I know one thing about when you have it gives you a chance, especially when you have a team with pretty much all new players. You give you that those situations give you a chance to see how a game situation is, pre-game meal, preparation, all those things like that. So for new players, it's big how you eat, because you got to understand a lot of things go into that. So pre-game meal, you get a lot of high school kids pre-game meal, they don't eat anything because that's not what they did in high school. So those are the types of things you have to teach them. All right, look, you got to eat because you want to have energy for the game. This is what our prep is before the game, watching film, breaking the other team down. So when you have those scrimmages and you have those exhibition games, it gives you a chance to teach the young guys that. So now you're not going to have that. We'll probably simulate it ourselves, I'd imagine, in doing that. But when you have those types of things, I know as a head coach, like, it was big for our young guys. Pay attention in the walkthrough. I mean, this is what they're going to be going through tomorrow. They don't usually go through those things as high school players. You know what I mean? So those types of little things like that really help. It's going to be interesting in not having them to be able to do those this year. But so I guess you try to simulate it as best you can.
All right, Larry Vaught, we'll come back to you, and then Maggie, I'll go to you.
Bruce, could you just talk a little bit about Isaiah? You've talked about him as a shot blocker. What about other parts of his game? How's he developed offensively, and how have you been pleased with what he's done?
I mean, you do what you do best, and one thing he does is rebounds and block shots. And I think he has a little bit of ways to go with his offense, but I think he continues to get better because he works at it. Great athlete. And I remember watching him as a high school player. Always played with great energy, but I didn't think he was a layup maker, a finisher around the basket. But he's getting a lot better at that. But he's doing what he does well, which is block shots and rebounds the ball. Unbelievable length. So I think he's going to be not a good defensive player, a really good defensive player, guys. Great feet. So I think the sky's the limit for him. I think he got a chance to be pretty good, but he's a work in progress offensively. I think he shoots the ball a little bit better than I thought he did as a high school player. But I think he got a chance to be really, really good.
Thank you.
Okay, Maggie, we'll go to you.
Coach, you mentioned there's something about sort of pregame meals and getting the guys ready for the games. A couple of weeks ago, Terence Clark was talking to us about his pregame meals, and he mentioned apple juice, Swedish fish, candy, and a lot of sweets and stuff like that. And so I was just, sort of wondering what you think about that sort of routine, and if that's something you're going to want to change, or if the sugar rush is the way to go for Terence.
You're definitely going to want to change it, because that sugar rush becomes a 5-minute spurt, and then you're dead. But I mean, those are the things you learn as a freshman. I remember myself, I never ate as a high school player before the game. So I remember my first meal as a college, and back then they didn't eat we used to eat steaks before the game, believe it or not. But they were like, yo, you gotta eat. I was like, I don't need that, man. I mean, after about 5 or 6 minutes of being out there, you're calling for a sub, and your energy, not only your energy for that game, but going forward. I mean, you lose it. You know what I mean? You just don't. You start to lose your energy going forward. So you got to take care of yourself both physically, and eating and sleeping is a big part of that. So like I said, it goes back to your high school stuff. You got away with that in high school. You're not getting away with that in college. So his diet is definitely going to be a big difference.
All right, guys, I think that's we're coming up on 11:20 here in just a moment, so we'll go ahead and end it there. I want to thank Bruiser for joining us today. I think you guys all know we'll have